doing. And I'm actually going to be making a major revolved around microbiology and epidemiology as a pre-med, since I'm like really interested in infectious diseases and stuff. So that's a really cool opportunity that I'm excited for. As for what I did in high school, like maybe if we have any similarities, I was really involved in speech and debate, science Olympiad, and National History Day. So I was really like all over the place with my interests. And I think that's one of the reasons that I chose Brown, because I could study history and I could study French and I could study biology and I could literally study whatever I wanted. Like there were no restrictions because of the open curriculum, which I'm psyched to talk about if you guys have questions about that. But anyways, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat like right now. This is gonna be the document that I'm gonna be going off of. So if you wanna open that up. Oh wait, shoot, I sent it to the wrong person. 1 second. Shoot, I have to click everyone. Okay, so in this document, I actually linked my scholarship spreadsheet, which has like 80 scholarships that I applied to because I'm crazy. So if you guys want to go on that, you can also find some scholarships that could be really useful, because I know a lot of you guys asked about like, what are some good scholarships to enter? So like, I'm going to be going over this later, but like basically I entered about 90 scholarships and I won about 9. So 10% acceptance rate-ish, but that's good enough for me. And I'll get into that later. So I'm kind of just going to go through your guys' questions that you like submitted prior to registration and everything. And if you have additional ones, you can drop them in the chat. And I guess I'll just kind of answer them as they go. So the very first question I saw was basically talking about ways to find scholarships. And I know this is like a super like broad one, because it really depends on like if you're an international or you're a domestic student and like where you live, because your location can like open up more opportunities for scholarship. But the things I want to say in general when it comes to this is, number one, looking at those giant database websites. I know there's like websites like Niche and those big ones that like have those no essay giveaways and like the $2,000 like just random entry scholarships and stuff. I'm not talking about those scholarships. I'm talking about the scholarships where it literally like lists out like 90 pages worth. And I know that that can be overwhelming, but like put on some music, take the time to go through all of those, maybe open some up like in new tabs. If you qualify for them, it can actually be really beneficial. And also another thing I want to talk about, my next bullet point, is basically looking up keywords. And so my examples were like STEM scholarships for Latina women or scholarships for low-income high schoolers, because when you do stuff like that, you're going to catch up on the keywords that are in different websites, and that can basically help you find scholarships that you specifically will be eligible for. So basically looking for race-specific scholarships, socioeconomics level, like specific scholarships, or even like major-specific, because like I've seen a lot of like botany scholarships, and that has to do with plants and stuff. There's like a lot of major specific scholarships, so you can definitely look for that. Overall, I see STEM scholarships the most, but that's also what I was looking for, so that's probably why I saw it a lot. Another thing I said was talking to your friends who are currently in college that went to your high school or didn't go to your high school. I would recommend this mostly because the fact that if they did go to your high school and they graduated from there, they likely applied to local scholarships. And sometimes we know that guidance counselors and teachers might not always be like super available to help you guys. But if you do reach out to these upperclassmen, most of the time, like they'll have a spreadsheet that they compile or like a list of things that they won, and you can always look off of that and it can help you find scholarships. So that's definitely great. I said looking at mass lists on the internet, and I like linked one below. So that's just like me looking up colleges with full ride scholarships. Like you'll find these giant lists that people compile basically for you, and Prep Scholar is like a great source for that. So that's why I linked it. And I think those are super useful too. And then I did say asking your, oh, perfect. That's great. Asking your school counselors and teachers, because most of the time they do have insight on like specific school scholarships. Because honestly, like half the scholarships I won were for like scholarships for my region specifically. Right. Okay, so there's that. And now moving on to the next point that I was talking about is QuestBridge how-to, because you guys kind of discussed that. So this is the timeline they give you on the website. And I actually applied through QuestBridge, but the thing is, like, I wasn't a finalist, and I think this is mostly because they place like a huge emphasis on your socioeconomic level. The average median income for finalists is actually like $30,000. So if you are more at the higher side of the requirements, you have less of a chance of becoming a finalist, because they do focus a lot on your income level in addition to your achievements, obviously, and stuff, but they want to make it available to students who really need it firsthand, like first most. So the first thing I said is submitting the application, and that application ends in less than 2 months, like literally almost about a month. So I would definitely recommend looking into that. And the qualifications for QuestBridge, they're like kind of broad. It says that you should have an income of about $65,000 for a family of 4. However, like if you have more dependents, that changes. If you have other family members in college, that amount changes. Like it's really a family by family basis. So even if you don't think you're going to match, like even if you don't think you're going to be a finalist, I would still apply through QuestBridge, because when you do that, and even if you're totally rejected, you get a ton of free fee waivers. So for me, like I was able to apply to Rice, Brown, Northwestern, like all these QuestBridge associate schools for free through regular decision, because I got the waivers, even though I didn't like advance or anything. So when you do submit your application, everyone ends up ranking these schools, but like you might be tempted to rank literally every single school, but I would definitely recommend to tell you, keep in mind, it's not just the name, it's also about fit. Because if you rank a school like MIT and you absolutely hate math and science, like I don't know what to tell you, that's not going to be a good fit. But when you do rank these schools, if you end up becoming a finalist, you're going to have to write essays for every single one of these schools that you rank. So be really careful about how many you rank when you apply. And then October, they notify the finalists, and then they have to submit their like match essays and stuff by November 1st. So that means you have 10 days from October 21st to November 1st to write all the essays, all the required stuff for the up to 15 schools that you rank. So I would not recommend ranking 15, because that will be a really long 10 days if you do that. And then if you do match through QuestBridge, yay, you get a full ride scholarship, all 4 years completely paid for. And so that means tuition, room, board, everything else you need paid for. It's great. But even if you don't get matched, whether it's because of the fact that they had like too many applicants, you didn't really fit the school or stuff, it doesn't really matter in my opinion, because everyone I know, like I know about 5 people that haven't been matched that have gotten into amazing schools. And the one friend I used as an example, she was not matched as a finalist, but she ended up getting into every single RG school that she applied to, Stanford, Duke, WashU, Northwestern, even though none of them actually matched her through QuestBridge. So they might say no to you for QuestBridge, but then they'll be like, okay, for regular decision. And that'll be really great, because then you'll still usually get a full ride if you were eligible for QuestBridge. The next thing I want to go through is FAFSA, which is like everyone's least favorite thing because it's really annoying. But anyways, FAFSA opens up October 1st, and you honestly could keep this in your calendar, but to be honest, everyone talks about it when it opens, so you'll probably find out. So for FAFSA, this was a bullet point list I kind of found on their website. Like, first thing you do is gather all the information, and this includes SSN, federal tax returns, W-2s, all the records of the money earned, bank statements, records of investments, records of untaxed income. That's also in a bullet point. And to be honest, most of the stuff is usually stuff that your parents will deal with. I literally didn't know any of this information until my dad filled it out. So there's that. So you create your account basically, and make sure to have a password you actually will remember, because if you only get like 2 tries to log in, and otherwise it's a really big hassle to change your password, just because this is like a secure government website. So be careful with that. Make sure you keep track of your password, because I had to go through that long process. You basically fill in your student information. Like you talk about what schools you're interested in applying to and stuff. And this isn't binding at all. I know that on the FAFSA, they do give you 10 spots to put schools in, but if you're interested in like 15 schools or something, you can fill out the FAFSA, wait till it's processed, which usually takes like 2 days, and then you can fill it out again and just change the schools on your list. So like, it's pretty much okay. You'll be able to add as many schools as you need, so don't fret about that, because I know a lot of people get worried. Okay, yeah. And then it gives you an option to like review your FAFSA and then sign and submit it and stuff. Be careful, review your FAFSA a lot, because if there's anything that's wrong, your financial aid could be wrong. And it's really hard to do financial appeals sometimes, because everyone's trying to appeal at the exact same time and they take a while to respond to you. But another thing I would say is, if you're not happy with your financial aid from your school, definitely appeal it. I wasn't really happy with my aid. I thought it could be a bit lower, and I appealed and I didn't really think I had a chance, and they gave me $5,000 more for like every year. And I was like, okay, dang. So like, even if you don't think it'll work, it might work. My friend at Notre Dame got $13,000 added to her aid every single year, just because she simply like emailed them and said, hey, I literally can't afford this. I don't know, like my expected parent contribution might be $12,000. And that number is like how much your parents are expected to pay for you for school. But my parents can only contribute like $6,000. So like, she kind of clarified that stuff. And when you do like open up their minds to your actual situation, because some people might have medical expenses, some people might have like dead relatives they have to take care of, relatives overseas and stuff like that, you really have to make that apparent to the office, because they won't know from your FAFSA. And something I wanted to talk about at the very end, you might need to complete an IDOC. I don't know what that stands for. for some schools. And these are mostly schools that are like top 20 schools. And for this IDoc, you have to supply like additional information. Like they will ask you, how many cars do you own? What year is this car from? How much money do you owe in your house? They'll ask you about all the stocks you have. They ask really specific stuff, but they do give you a giant like section for you to explain your whole family situation. So I guess the IDoc is kind of useful, but overall, these are the main two documents and systems that you guys are going to have to work with to apply for financial aid. However, I will say for certain schools, and for me, this was Princeton and Washington University in St. Louis, they might actually have a separate system that you have to fill out. So Princeton completely like didn't use the IDocs. You had to fill out their special thing. And for WashU, it was the same thing. Everyone uses FAFSA, but not everyone uses IDoc. And it's up to you to honestly look at those websites when you're applying and look up like how to apply for financial aid from Yale or something and see exactly what they need and check it off. Because if you miss something, they'll reach out to you sometimes and tell you you missed it. But usually it's easier if you have it from the beginning for them to access. So that's financial aid for FAFSA and IDoc. The next question was best way to win scholarships. And so the first bullet point I have is like those raffle like scholarships, you know, the ones that spam up your email where it's like $2,000, like no essay required scholarship, just make an account and like refer a friend or something. I don't recommend honestly putting much time into these because yeah, there's a small chance you're going to win, but I was looking at the logistics for one of these scholarships and like 100,000 students applied and they choose like one person. So yeah, you might have a chance at winning, but it's not really something to invest a lot of time in. So I don't really recommend those because they're really just a shot out there. The thing I really do recommend is local and regional scholarships, just because you're going to have such a good chance of winning those, especially if you're someone who's like well-known in your community or someone who's even just got good stats at your school. Like if you're in the top 10% or something of your school, and even if you're not, like it's okay if you have other things that can make up for grades or academics, whatever it is. Because the thing is, your local pool is going to be way smaller. And additionally, there are a lot of people that don't know about these scholarships because they don't take the time to actually ask their counselors, ask their students, ask upperclassmen. Like the scholarships I entered for, like to win locally, a lot of my friends didn't even know they existed until after I won them. Like people don't realize this stuff, and that's why it's such a great opportunity. So something you could do when I like mentioned keywords from earlier is you could look up scholarships for students from Toledo, Ohio. So like that's where I live. That's what I started doing. And I found a whole website of scholarships dedicated to students in Toledo that I would have never known about. So definitely recommend that. The next thing I said is applying to scholarships that suit you. So when they give you a list of requirements or recommendations, like we want to help people of color, we want to help people with low income, do not apply if you're like a white person that's rich or something. Like try to keep up with the requirements that they give you, because otherwise your application really won't stand out because you're not the demographic they're looking for, and it's not going to help you. You're going to waste your time, basically. The other thing I had to say was researching school-specific scholarships. Some schools have scholarships that you are only eligible for if you apply early to that school. And I know a lot of you are thinking, oh my gosh, wait, but I wanted to apply early decision to this school. And as you know, if you apply early decision, you think, oh my gosh, I can't apply anywhere else. But that's actually false. If you apply like early decision to Brown per se, you can still apply to public schools and you can do early action and stuff. But the thing is, if you do get into that early decision school, you just have to cancel all of your applications. But I would recommend applying to your state schools, your safeties, all of that early, just because you'll have a chance at merit scholarships and better financial aid because they give it to that first round of people who apply. And honestly, if you get into your E-Day school, that's amazing. You can get rid of all your other applications, but otherwise it's a good backup to have. And for restrictive early action, that's not even an issue because you can apply to any public school if you do restrictive early action. The schools that offer restrictive early action are Yale, Princeton, and Harvard, except for this year, actually. Princeton removed this, so Yale and Harvard. So if you apply restrictive early action, you can only apply to that school as a private school. So if I apply to Harvard early action, I can't apply to, trying to think of a private school. I don't know. I can't apply to Princeton early as well. Like I can't do that kind of stuff. You can only apply to one private school, but as many public as you want. So take advantage of applying early to schools and the scholarships that are available for students who do that. Because like WashU, for example, I know that you can only get their like full tuition, full ride scholarships if you apply early. So it's definitely stuff like that that you need to look into, because like I didn't realize half of this stuff until after. And it's like doing the research is so important because it helps you learn so much, honestly. You guys asked about my experience. So I entered over 80 scholarships, but the exact number is like 94, and I won 9 of them. And then 6 out of the 9 were local/regional scholarships. And so the thing is, like, I know it sounds crazy, like I applied to 94, but some of them were as simple as copying and pasting an essay I had already written because it was the exact same prompt. And so it was honestly like really easy for some. So I would say I only put effort into about half of them. And maybe quality is honestly more important than quantity, but for me, like, I liked my essays that I wrote at the very beginning, so I just kept using those essays over and over again. And if the applicant pool tended to be bigger and there were other people who were more impressive, like, obviously I wasn't going to win, but, you know, I tried, and it definitely gave me experience writing essays, and it helped me learn about new scholarship opportunities sometimes, because, like, for example, like I told you guys, I was a finalist for like Coca-Cola, Jack Kent Cook. When I was a finalist for these scholarships, I basically reached out to other people who were also finalists, and we made like a finalist group chat. And in this group chat, a lot of people actually shared like other scholarships they were about to apply for, or other things that like were interesting opportunities. So like by applying for these big scholarships, I kind of learned about other scholarships. So like communication can be really great, especially if people are more like collaborative. They don't kind of want to like outshine and be competitive and everything. So that's really great. My motto basically is, if you don't enter a scholarship because you don't think you're going to win, and you do follow their demographics and everything, like you have a chance technically, then you're basically rejecting yourself from the start. Because when you apply for a ton of scholarships, you can reuse stuff, you can reuse essays, you can reuse the same exact information that you're always using. And the more you enter, technically, the better you have of a chance of winning. And scholarships are just honestly so important. And a lot of people don't think about applying until they receive their school's financial aid offer, and then they're like, shoot, I need scholarships. But the thing is, you're not going to get that financial aid offer until it's too late. If you get accepted to a regular decision school, you're not going to know your financial aid until honestly March and April. And I find that the most like beneficial scholarships, the biggest one on my like that spreadsheet that's linked at the top, the biggest ones are all like scholarships you have to enter by November. So you really have to think about this early on, and you have to like look into it. And yeah, so that's that section. If I'm ever talking too quickly, let me know and like tell me to slow down, because I have the habit of really going through things really quickly. What's the next thing? Okay, getting scholarships without SAT or ACT scores. This is a big thing, especially this year. And what I have to say about that is it depends on the scholarship. I don't think that every single one of my scholarships asked about SAT and ACTs, but there definitely were some that did. And for that, I feel like this year is a new situation that they have to be like open towards. Like, what I mean by that is, if you email them and say like, I had a financial situation, I couldn't take the SAT, ACT with the COVID pandemic, all of my test dates were canceled, like I never had an opportunity, then they should technically provide you with the same opportunity as everyone else to apply. And to be honest, I feel like most of these scholarships are already like taking out that requirement, or like sometimes it says optional. A lot of the times it said optional in parentheses and stuff, so I just wouldn't do it. But like if they don't have like a thing that removes the requirement, it doesn't hurt to ask, because honestly the worst thing they'll say is no, and in that case you just move on to the next scholarship. Like, just make a copy and pasted like email that you send to every single scholarship community, and like usually they reply really quickly. I've never had an experience where they ghosted me yet, so like I would definitely try to reach out, because worst thing they can say is no. Next thing I want to talk about is student debt. So this is a really touchy subject, but the thing I have to say is, for some people, student debt is literally unavoidable. Whether it's your parents not supporting you in your education, or like they don't want you to go to that school and you want to go to that school and they say they're not going to pay for that school, that type of stuff, because that happens to a lot of people. Or if you're in the family situation where your family makes too much money and you're not going to get financial aid, but the thing is you can't afford the tuition, you're just in that awkward like in between. There's just so many issues. And so for that, I have to say, be smart when deciding like what college you want to go to. Because the thing is, when you have all your decisions, sometimes it's tempting to choose the biggest name and stuff, choose the best college that like seems best for the public. But if you're considering going to graduate school and you're racking up $200,000 in debt in undergraduate school, it's not really the best option, because that's just going to keep piling up and you're going to have to pay interest, and it's just going to be a wreck. So if you do want to attend like those top schools, applying for scholarships can be vital. Applying for financial aid is vital. And talking to your parents, honestly, like I know it's an awkward conversation to have. My parents didn't even want me to leave like this city. So it's definitely really awkward. But if you like list out what schools you want to apply to and you do their financial aid calculators, because they all have those on their website, you can get a rough estimate of how much each school will cost you, like before scholarships and Sometimes it varies and stuff. And so when you do have that, you can kind of get a rough idea of what might be the best choice. And I know that sometimes people think like, no, like I have to go to this school because it has the best name. But once again, fit matters more than name. And I'll say it like a million times over, because like you won't be happy at a school that you don't feel comfortable at, one that doesn't really support what you really want to do. So like I would not be, for some reason I applied to schools like Chicago and Columbia, and I thought for some reason I would like it there. But like I would not be happy at a school that had a core curriculum, because I want to study a ton of things, and I wouldn't have the opportunity to do that as a pre-med at these schools that basically list out what courses you have to take every single year. They require you to do this stuff. So think about fit a lot, and make sure that you're considering like how much it's going to strain you financially. So if you can do work study, if you can work during college or before college, if you have money saved up, great, you can take all those things into account. But honestly, student debt isn't really something I can address specifically, because it varies by person to person, and it's just something you really have to think about when you're deciding your school and your future. And I know a lot of people who are accepted into, honestly, like my friend who was accepted to Harvard, and he couldn't afford it. He was going to be in a situation like where he'd be paying $70,000 a year, and he wanted to move on to graduate school. So he went to the University of Michigan, which is still a prestigious like institution. It's definitely great, and he got in-state tuition. So it's all about making those decisions that are best for you based on fit and financial like ability. So next thing is less competitive scholarships. I honestly basically already said this, the school, local, regional scholarships, just because less people enter those and you have a better chance of standing out. But also another thing is scholarships that are more like lengthy. People usually don't want to enter those. So my example for this is the Coca-Cola scholarship seems lengthy at first because it has like a ton of slots that you have to fill out and all that stuff. And it's time consuming. But the thing is, oh, I just saw a question. What's the top 20? I'm going off the US News top 20 college list. So like the Ivies are all in the top 20s. Schools like Duke, Rice, Stanford, WashU, University of Michigan are all in the top 20s, etc. I'll answer the rest of the question. Sorry, I just happened to see that one. Scholarships that involve multiple essays usually turn people off from the start because people are lazy. They don't want to do it. This happens to me a lot of the times. I'd look at an essay and I'd be like, I don't feel like writing that. That's something I didn't write beforehand, so I can't just copy and paste it. So like, why would I do it? But these are the scholarships that might give you a better chance of actually winning, just because people don't usually apply these as much. How to prepare for the process. I don't know whether this person was asking about the college process or the scholarship process, but in general, you don't really prepare for this stuff. It happens naturally. The more essays you write, the better writer you become. And I know everyone like talks about how much they hated the college application process because it involved writing a ton of essays and just filling out this stuff. But honestly, like as much as I hated it, I really learned a lot about myself and my passions and how I wanted to convey myself like to the admissions committee. Because here's like, I don't want to write in a way that like the committee will like, but it doesn't really show who I am. And so I kind of learned about things I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to emphasize and what worked and what didn't. Like for some scholarships, like I tended to see one of these essays winning more often, and I tended to see another one like not winning at all. So you kind of got in the habit of thinking about what stories match better for scholarships and like what you want to emphasize more. So honestly, it's a learning process. The more you write, the better you become at writing these essays. And if you guys have additional questions on that, because it wasn't really a specific question, you can comment that in the chat. How do outside scholarships work for college? So this is something that actually makes me really mad because it's an annoying process. So some outside scholarships get sent to your school and some of them will get sent to you. And by school, I mean future college, like ahead of time. So the ones that get sent to you, don't report them, because if you report those scholarships, they might deduct them from your financial aid. And I will get into that. So if they get sent to you, you're under no obligation to basically report them. So I have a lot of money that was sent to my bank account and my school doesn't know about it. And it's okay to do that. But when the outside scholarships are sent to your school, what happens is basically you have a certain amount of scholarships you can use every year. And it's really annoying because this amount is determined by how much your student contribution is and how much your work study is. So if your parental contribution every year is $10,000, if it says that your parents have to pay $10,000 every year, if that's what FAFSA says for your EFC, expected family contribution, based on your income, based on what you have in your bank accounts, you can't touch that. You're going to have to pay that money unless you get more aid from the school or something. But otherwise, scholarships cannot affect that amount, even if you get $10,000 in scholarships. Really annoying. So for me, my maximum that I could actually use for this year was $2,950 because that's my work study amount. So for that, I contacted my school and they said that there's a program where you can use excess money to buy a laptop so you don't lose it. Because otherwise, if you give them those scholarships, like if you have 7,000 and you only have 2,950 that you can use, they will deduct those scholarships from your financial aid. And basically those scholarships disappear, which is really annoying. But in those cases, you can usually email the scholarship and be like, hey, this is my situation. I don't want this scholarship to disappear or get deducted from my aid, because in that case, the school gets the money and you don't get anything. And usually they will be willing to send it to you as long as you like prove that you're spending it on college expenses, which honestly usually isn't that hard. Like your flight, your books, your materials, your dorm setup, like there's a lot of stuff that relates to college that you need to spend money on. So it's just something that's annoying, but we all have to deal with it. It's not a school by school basis. It's like a federal law or whatever. Your parental contribution cannot be touched with scholarships. So that's how outside scholarships work for college. However, if it's one of those scholarships, it's a full ride, like Questbridge, Gates and stuff. Even though it's like an outside scholarship, those are like recognized by the university because they're full ride. So basically those cover your whole cost no matter what. So like those full ride scholarships are the exception, but like scholarships that are just in general and not covering like your whole education or like your whole tuition, it works like this. And then lastly, different types of scholarships and aid. So merit-based scholarships are based on merit. So they're one based on your academics, your essays, your extracurriculars, your honors, your activities, basically everything you've done and how you convey that. And those scholarships technically go to the best students or whoever can convey themselves as the best student. However, need-based scholarships focus on all the stuff that merit-based scholarships focus on. So like still your academics, those stuff, they still kind of matter, but it also takes into account your financial circumstances. So for need-based scholarships, if you have like really good extracurriculars, you have good stats. However, someone who makes more than you has even better extracurriculars and better stats, it's more likely to go to the person who makes less because these are need-based scholarships, so that's the priority. And that's what I was talking about with Questbridge. Even if you're like an outstanding student, if you make a certain amount that's like higher than like a student who doesn't make a lot of money but is still a good student, it's going to go to the student that doesn't make a lot of money, because the thing is these scholarships are meant to go to the students who have the most financial need. So for that reason, even if you do have some financial need, they emphasize going to the person who needs it the most. A note that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of people like misconstrue this for some reason. IVs don't give out any scholarships. Even if they recruit you as a soccer player, like for their top team, you're not going to get any scholarships from them. You won't get scholarships for being a good student. You won't get anything. The only thing they give is financial aid. So for a random IV or something, if you don't get any aid, you're going to pay full price, like no matter how amazing are you are. I don't know why I said it that way. So when people say they got a scholarship from an IV, it was financial aid. And so that's one thing. Pretty much every other school gives some sort of merit scholarship, whether it's a school like a state school like University of Michigan or OSU. State schools tend to give less scholarships, I'd say in general. They usually have full ride and full tuition programs, but those are very selective. And the thing is, there are so many students at these state schools that it's kind of hard to get those. But when you look at schools like WashU, NYU, USC, University of Southern California, those schools have like a lot of scholarship programs, mostly because they're going to have less applicants, but because they're trying to like gather people to those schools that are talented and will win those scholarships. So it really depends on the school, but just a clarification that every school except for IVs gives out merit scholarships. So that's that document. I basically wrote that all at night. My scholarship list at the top, very useful. If you have questions with that, you can let me know. On that scholarship list, I think it also has my YouTube, which you should subscribe to, because I am going to be posting a lot of stuff when I start college, and I have a lot of like college related videos. Wait, which scholarships did you get? I'll get into that. And also the Instagram if you have specific questions that I don't get to today. And now I'm going to look into the chat and answer in chronological order. Will we be emailed this doc? Yes. According to Femme For Education, yes, you will. And then I'm only a junior, but should I start my FAFSA account now? No, you shouldn't. You can only do your FAFSA basically your senior year. Like if you try to open it, it's not going to help you in any sort of way. Additionally, the thing is like your FAFSA uses your taxes from 2 years ago. So when I applied for my 2019-2020 year, which was this year, they asked for my 2018 taxes because I was entering college in the fall of 2020. So if you try to apply your junior year, it could help or it could hurt you, but it's not really a good idea because it's going to refresh for the next year and you're going to have to do it over again. So I don't know, if you want practice filling out forms, go for it, but like, I wouldn't do it. And then what was the next question? Can you use all your one scholarships at one time? I don't really know what you mean by this, but for most scholarships that I won for this year, they all applied for next year. So like if I won them this year, I had to be a full-time student next year and I had to use them next year. And unless I like emailed them with a special circumstance and said like, hey, like can you please apply it to my sophomore year because I reached my max for scholarships. But yeah, pretty much your scholarships can all be used at one time. If you want me to elaborate more on that, I can. I don't really know like what the question was geared towards. What's a top 20? Yeah, as I said, that's the US News list. How long did it take you to apply your scholarships in total? Here's the thing. This wasn't like a sit-down process where I applied to everything. It was honestly gradual. I started in September. I ended in July. I will say I didn't win any scholarships like over the summer or anything. So technically I ended in like May, but it was mostly just me checking like monthly, seeing what I could find. And there were some newsletters that I signed up for that like gave me like scholarships to my inbox. So, like sometimes because I'm addicted to checking my email, I'd like open up my email and find that or something. So that was cool. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I would say for each scholarship though, I probably spent anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 hours. The ones that were 5 hours are like ones like Coca-Cola and the really long ones. But the 5-minute ones are ones that are like copy and paste this prompt because I've already done it. And then Mohammed said, which scholarships did you get? Well, the 6 that I talked about that were local, those were local. Other than that, I won the DCU for Kids Scholarship, which I think is on my scholarship list. They gave me $2,000. They mailed it and it's downstairs, but it's going to my school. So I have to forward that to my school. So I don't get any of it. My school does, but it still goes towards my tuition. So it's okay. I won the Burger King Scholarship, which is also on my scholarship list. I definitely recommend entering this one, even though it's kind of lengthy. There are like 3 essays, but they're like general prompts. Like you can just redo stuff. My favorite scholarship, I won the Elks Most Valuable Student Scholarship. So this one is really community service volunteer-based scholarship. So when you're filling out this application, and the scholarship is on my list as well, when you're filling this out, like focus a lot on your volunteer and community service, like experiences and the essays and everything like that. Because the whole thing is the Elks organization that actually like funds the scholarship is a volunteer organization. They're like one of those community organizations that sets things up for the community so kids and adults can participate and like meet each other. And like they're like Rotaries kind of. So like that's another thing. Keep in mind what the foundation is that you're applying for a scholarship from, because if your foundation is really focused on like academics or really focused on research or something, cater it to what that foundation is really focused on so that you can be the best applicant possible. So yeah, the Elks Most Valuable Student Scholarship gave me $4,000. And you can get anything from $4,000 to $20,000. And also once you're a scholar, you have the opportunity to apply for graduate program scholarships, which I can do in 4 years. So like I'm eligible for a medical school scholarship of $26,000 if I get that in like 4 years from now. And like you're eligible to go on service trips and stuff like that with them and volunteer. So there's a lot of benefits. I also won the BCSN scholarship, but that's like that's on my list, and that's like a sports station.
Wait,
so, like,
I had a question.
Yeah.
What did you say? VCN or VCU?
Oh, the BCSN.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But I think that one's only for students in Ohio or the Midwest. So, yeah, that's not really local, but it's more kind of restricted. So definitely apply to Burger King, Elks, and DCU. I will type those in the chat because those were the ones I had success for. I'll type them right now. DCU for kids, Burger King. And for all of these ones, you can win varying like levels. It really depends. So those are the 3. What scholarships can you apply to as a junior? Here's the thing. Most of these scholarship organizations are like geared towards seniors, but a lot of times they say that like any high school student can apply. So it's really just a matter of like looking through a list like mine or like looking online to find scholarships. But there's no like specific scholarship that is just for juniors that I know of. They go towards seniors usually because seniors have to apply to college next year or like that year, and they have to go to college next year. So they kind of have the emphasis and the priority. And they also have more to talk about. They know what they're going to study in college. They know like, an idea of where they're going. So like usually they're geared more towards seniors, but if you try, some of these can be entered by juniors. Next question. How do you get teachers' recommendations? Would you reach out to people who wrote letter of recs for your college apps? So here's the thing, when you ask for a letter of recommendation from your teacher, they usually, in my case, give you a general letter that says like, please, like, I think Cecile would be an excellent candidate for this position. So that's a very general, like, closing line. So everything they included in that letter, it could go for a job, it could go for a college rec, it could go for a scholarship rec. So honestly, I saved a copy of my letter of recommendation because I asked them, can I have it? And I just kept using it on their behalf when I applied to scholarships. So like, you can ask for a specific one, but usually you're fine just submitting the same one they submitted for college apps. And honestly, it gives you a plus because then you get to see what they actually said about you for your college app. So that could be good, that could be bad. Usually it's good, and you can just reuse it, and you get to hear about the nice words your teacher said. So there's that. When did you start applying for scholarships? Like I said, September, because those are like QuestBridge, and that's when I really got into it. Which newsletters did you subscribe to? I don't know off the top of my head, but if I'm going to look, and I'll email for education. Who can email you guys when I find out? Did you have to be an employee at Burger King to apply for their scholarship? Nope. I never worked at Burger King. I honestly barely eat at Burger King. It's not really my favorite fast food restaurant. You don't have to be an employee. There's an employee-specific scholarship like there is for Chick-fil-A, like there is for Tim Hortons. Like usually where you work, there's a scholarship associated with that company if it's a big one. Another place to ask for scholarships. But for Burger King, like you just had to be a high school senior. So that's it. How many paragraphs did you write for each essay? See, it really depends. Some of my essays were like 200 words. Some of them were like 500 words. They give you guidelines and you follow them. So on average, I think most of my scholarships were 500 words. But like I told you, I could cut and paste things from previous like entries and just reuse it. So that became really helpful. Tips on being a history major on a pre-med track. I think you might have texted me this earlier. Here's the thing, like with pre-meds, a lot of them are STEM majors. And when you apply to med school, like your major honestly doesn't matter. But humanities majors and people that like are not majoring in STEM, I would like to think that they bring different perspectives to the table. The thing is, major in what you're interested in. This goes for everyone, like no matter if you're pre-law, pre-med, pre-graduate school, like whatever. Major in what you're interested in and then apply that to your graduate school application, because a lot of the times usually you can bring a new perspective to that institution. So if I have like 50 bio majors who all took the same exact courses, like applying to my med school, but then I see like an English major who still did well on their MCAT, got a good GPA and everything, like they bring like a new perspective. And so it's just a matter of majoring in what you're interested in and what you'll do the best in. Don't major in neuroscience because it sounds fancy, because like do what you're interested in because that'll help you find success. And that's kind of why I'm making my own major now. Even though I'm still going to take history courses and stuff that I'm interested in, I just think that this would be the best choice for me because I can construct my own curriculum and basically choose what I'm going to take instead of other people telling me, hey, maybe you should do this for the biology track, stuff like that. So honestly, yeah, your major really doesn't matter. It's what you do during college, what you do in general, and how you apply it to your application for graduate school. So we can talk about that more specifically if you want to DM me or something, since it's such a specific question. But yeah, that's kind of my answer for that. Another thing I have to say when you apply for college is a lot of people say like major doesn't matter or like some majors give you a better chance. Everyone says different things. My word of advice on that is apply for the majors that fit the most with what you've done in high school. So do not apply for art history if you've never done anything related to art or history because you think it'll give you a better chance of getting in. Because a lot of people make this mistake because they'll be like, maybe I should apply for a major that nobody's going to enter for because, you know, there's going to be like more spots open or whatever. But the thing is, so many people change their major once they get to college. Like literally everyone I'm friends with has changed their major since they applied and to now. So I don't think admissions committees place like a huge emphasis on what you're majoring in. Also, it looks sketchy if you're applying in like an art history major kind of curriculum and all of your extracurriculars have to do STEM. It doesn't add up. Apply for a major or even majors if they match your extracurriculars more, that match the things you've done and the things you want to do. So like for me, like I'm not really interested in just majoring in history and stuff like that. But the reason I did a double major in history, or like on my applications, is because a lot of my extracurriculars were history related, so it made sense. So like you can change your major, don't feel restricted to it, but just kind of major in something that you can talk about, because a lot of the times they'll give you those essays that are like, why'd you pick this major? Or like in interviews, they'll be like, why are you doing this major? Why are you doing this? And you have to have a good answer for that. And like when you do go to interviews, they obviously don't see your application for most schools. They just get like your name, your hometown, your major that you applied for. Maybe sometimes they get your GPA test scores, but usually not, is what I've heard. So like they kind of have an idea of who you are and why you're applying there. So it's all about being able to talk about it like authentically. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. If you have any last minute questions, I will be on here for a while. But other than that, if you have specific questions, you can DM me. You guys should use that scholarship list. I think it's really handy. You should also subscribe to my YouTube, because I'm going to be posting out a lot more stuff weekly now, and I have scholarship related videos, college advice related videos, etc. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but thanks for listening to me as I babbled for about 42 minutes. Yeah, if you guys need clarification, you can write in the chat. That's pretty much it. Yes, we love a college YouTuber. Yeah, I think it's so fun. Like, I want to vlog in my undergraduate experience. I want to vlog in med school. I want to vlog, because the thing is, like, I see YouTube as an opportunity to help the students that were in the same situation that I was in. Because honestly, when I was applying to college, I was so lost. My channel name, just look up Cecile S. It's also on the spreadsheet. So like when I was applying to college, I was so lost. And the thing is, I kept trying to read this stuff online, like how to do this, how to apply for FAFSA, how to best scholarship center. Like I literally like was so lost. I didn't know what to do. My parents didn't live here. They literally like immigrated here, so they didn't know what to do either. And so like I'm just trying to make it easier for other people. And another opportunity that you seem so relatable. Yay. Okay, yeah, another opportunity I should probably talk about. I don't know if you guys are all eligible for this, but I actually started an organization with my friend at Brown, and we're reviewing first generation and low income students' essays completely for free, all of your essays from start to finish. And we've helped over 100 students in the past week, and we have about 40 advisors, like all from the top 20 schools right now, working with students. So definitely a great program, and I'm gonna put our Instagram in the chat below. And if you guys are interested in that, you can sign up for it, or you can DM me if you happen to miss that. But yeah, so that's also an opportunity if you feel like uncomfy with your essays and you are a first generation American or first generation college student, meaning that neither of your parents went to college or that your parents didn't grow up here, or if you're low income as defined by like the federal level, the Questbridge level, basically all those scholarships. So yeah. If you have any questions, you can turn on your mic. You honestly don't have to type, but like it doesn't even have to be financial aid related at this point. Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's fun talking to you guys. I just like helping other people like get that experience, learn about the things that I wish I knew about, honestly. But yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, nice meeting you guys virtually. Thank you. Oh yeah, I will be speaking tomorrow. So yeah, you can join me for interview tips and my experiences.
Thank you, everyone. If you don't have any questions, then I guess I can end the webinar right now. Is that okay for everyone?
Yep, it's good with me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Cecile. Bye-bye.